And we're live again. Hi, I am Mr. Kevin, and I work for the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, and you already knew what you were watching because you clicked on it. That's how the internet works. This month is what we're calling Bike Theft Prevention Month, and as you may already know, we've done a series of things about bike theft and what goes into that. So today's topic is, to get really specific, different types of bike locks. There's not just one type, there's a bunch, and we want to know more about those. So for that, we bring in Samuel.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. So I've prepared a little overview of the locks that are currently available on the market. And
let's jump in. Ta-da!
All right. Thanks for letting us steal a little bit of your time today to discuss bike locks. And we're gonna actually start not with a lock, but with something that could happen no matter what you do, and your bike could get stolen anyway. And so the one thing you have to do, there's always a way. And so the one thing you have to do is first, before any of that happens, have a plan B, and that is to register your bike online. With Bike Index. Bike Index is one of the big registration websites. And so you'll need to find the bike serial number on your bike. And if we go forward, we'll see one more. So you're going to need to find it on there. Some of them are stamped in the metal. And that means they're a little difficult to take off. Others are stickers. Others are small metal plates. These are some of the points you're going to need to look around for it. You might have to turn the bike upside down to look for number one. And then if you do that, you will see, this is an example of a stamped serial number. It's great because it's hard to grind off right away. But then if we continue, there's our other bikes, serial numbers that are being put on nowadays with QR codes, small decals or stickers. But you need to register that number with Bike Index. And so you have any chance of all getting your bike back if it's stolen. Okay, so let's continue about bike locks. All right. Some of the most popular types, people call them U-locks. That was really popular for a while. But to get more specific, I think, and to be more accurate, people say D-locks. And so we're going to look through those. We're going to talk about them. Next are folding locks. They're portable, and they can clip on your clothes or your backpack. They're often coated in a coating that prevents scratches on your bike. So that's something to think about. Chain locks have always been really popular ever since people probably just started making them with chain. Like, for example, this chain here is from the Home Depot, from a home store. And now you can buy a branded chain lock, and it relies on the chain. And one of the reasons why everyone doesn't use chain locks is because if you look at the lock, this chain, it has, instead of being one continuous piece of metal, it is circles of metal that allow it to bend, but that actually adds quite a bit of extra metal to the overall equation. And so a U-lock, which is a straight piece of metal, or a folding lock that unfolds into a straight piece of metal, we're talking less linear length of metal. And so you're saving weight. This is a 3/8" chain, hardened steel. It's quite heavy. Okay. And so that brings us to the next one. Lightweight locks, wearable locks. It depends on your locking needs, where you're going and what you're doing. And since any of these locks can be cut, a lot of people nowadays are choosing to just be really smart and careful about where they put their bike and using a lightweight lock instead, and focusing more on the usability of the product. You're probably going to use a lock, some people, as often as you ride your bike. It's probably one of the accessories that I use the most often. And then brand new digital lock features are that some locks have built-in notification system. If the bike is moved or tampered with, it'll send a signal to your phone. And they also have alarms built into them too. That'll sound an initial alarm and then a louder alarm.
Hey, what do you call a really fancy with D-lock? You call it
I don't
a deluxe D-lock.
exactly. And they're probably some of the most popular and the most reliable. Let's continue. Let's move forward. So U-lock, a D-lock. Uh, the thing that matters the most is the quality. There's some good quality brands, Kryptonite, Master Lock, even Abus. We'll go over the brands at the end, but it's how thick the shackle is. The shackle is the straight metal part, the U, and it's equal. It's serving the same purpose as the chain, but it's doing it in one straight bar. And so this chain is 3/8. That popular lock right there, the forget about it, the New York lock, supposedly that can't be cut with the bolt cutters, is something over ½ inch. I believe it's 15 millimeters.
Well, that's one of the things I've noticed with these sometimes is that it looks thick, but that's not all solid metal. There's like a coating around it. So you'll pick it up and hold it, and you're like, oh, wow, this is like an inch thick. But it's not, the metal isn't actually fully that thick, right?
Right. And the bolt cutters will go right through the plastic. So as long as they can get them around it, that won't slow it down. But the thick metal bolt cutters, they have to push the metal apart. And so the thicker metal, it really does slow down the bolt cutters. In fact, it could make it so the person has to buy new blades for their bolt cutter, and so they might be hesitant to try to cut your lock just because they're saving their bolt cutters for the next bike that's easier to get. But this is like a really popular new kind of trending lock. These bar locks. The weak point is in the pivot between each bar. It could be pried or broken, and it depends the quality. There's a lot of brands out there right now. It hasn't settled on one or two, three really good brands, and so the lock mechanism could be low or high quality. But if you go to the next image, what's cool is, oh yeah, that's another look at them. But let's go forward one more. And then this one is like, they have ones that attach to the bike frame. And so it's just about overall ease of use. That way you keep it always on the bike frame, and you unhook it and wrap it around the whatever you're locking it to. And so this is like usability. You're always using your lock. Maybe you don't like that heavy lock on your back, and maybe you don't like the chain lock, which can scratch your bike easily. Even though the chain is often wrapped in fabric, the tip of it can scratch your bike. And so these locks, you can use them with a little more finesse, a little more care. Still, though, the folding legs of the lock are a little difficult if you're locking with multiple bikes or like a busy bike rack with a lot of bikes. So this is the chain lock that people have been using for a long time. I think they just started buying chains. It's that zinc coating is that pinkish yellow color. And it also shows that the lock has probably been hardened. The steel has been hardened. It makes it pretty hard to cut with a bolt cutter. And that square chain is kind of like the high quality, because that makes it even harder for the edges of the bolt cutter to get through the shackle.
That's one of the things I've heard is that with the angle grinder, the spinning disc of metal, which is popular to cut through a solid piece of metal, it's really hard to get a grab on a chain because it's just going to be moving around underneath your tool. Anything to make it more difficult is a good thing, and so the chain prevents that.
Yep, and wrapping the chain tight so it can't be pulled away from the bike, and get that, and just to make it more difficult to get the grinder on the chain, like you're saying. I mean, if they can't put their foot on the chain and hold it down to cut it with the grinder because it's wrapped tight around a bike pole or a bike rack, then that's going to make it that much more difficult. They don't want to cut your bike frame in half. They want your bike, so having it tight against the frame is going to be an advantage too. This is kind of popular for people who are like keeping an eye on the bike. Maybe you're just going into a coffee shop and you trust the neighborhood, or you have allies. There's allies would be like people in the street you think that will help, that would prevent your bike from being stolen. So it's just all about ultralight. The bike's secure for all intents and purposes. It can be cut easily with cutters, but it saves you a lot of weight and trouble.
How long are you leaving the bike there? And that's one of the things we talked about in one of our previous streams is there's nothing better than just having the bike in your hand or being within an arm's reach of your bike. And so in those situations, a little lock like this can prevent someone from just picking up your bike and walking away with it. But it's not going to prevent any kind of slicing.
Yeah, but a lot of times people will put a bike down thinking it's in in eyesight or in line of sight and turn
Sure.
around, walk in to grab a coffee, and then someone will just run off with it right then at that moment. A crime
And
of
the other,
opportunity.
and that's the thing about these is that it's super quick. Like if
Yeah.
I'm just going in for a minute and I know it's going to take me longer to put the lock on than it is to order my coffee, then I might not do it. But something like this, you pull it out, you put it on, and then it's on, and then you're done. So
Yeah.
that helps too.
Quick and easy, and it won't scratch your bike.
I
Um,
remember these from when I was a kid.
yeah, nostalgia about those old locks, and yeah, they can easily be broken with a crowbar or a hammer, and so really, it's that's about those short stops, places you're pretty sure the bike's going to be okay, but it would prevent someone from rolling it away. And then, okay, so a lot of bike locks are being marketed as wearable nowadays, either around your shoulder, around your waist, or clipped onto your backpack or your pants. And so they come with like coatings. And this one's like sort of like special design, has bands of metal inside, and it's meant to be worn as a belt. And so, I mean, think about it. I mean, I use a bike lock every day. And so when I commute, I lock up my bike. And if you're using it every day, you need something that you feel comfortable with, that you like using, that doesn't pinch your fingers and um, doesn't weigh too much for you, and that you can put in the place where you want to put it. And I think when you are looking for a lock, you want to think about stuff like ergonomics. The key easy to use, or is it really difficult to use? Because a difficult to use key might end up breaking, or a difficult to carry lock, you might not want to take it with you. And so this is functionality is about deterring a thief. But in the end, any bike lock can be cut by that disc grinder. And so nothing's 100%, it's all situational. I thought these are the folding locks, and they do get pretty compact, and they come with clips. And so I've never tried one, but I think it looks reasonable. It's not a high level of security for someone with a cutting tool, but I don't think that's what you use it for. I think you use it in broad daylight when you have allies around, and I think that's what it's for. I think a lot of people in general, are moving away from leaving a bike out at night at all, ever, locked up or not. And so having these giant locks in San Diego, at least, maybe is an overkill. But at the same time, people have been seen going around with bolt cutters, but I don't know if disc grinders is common during the day. There are bicycle locks with built-in alarms. They start making an initial noise, and then they can do a louder noise. And then they'll send alarms signals to your phone, either just with Wi-Fi, so like with a 300-foot range, via an app. So you have to check to see whether it has a limit of 300 feet or if it uses the internet. But most of them are actually, they don't use the internet, so there's a limitation of distance. Okay, you're going to see a lot of brands, and some of the same names are going to pop up because they're the most sold and the most reliable. And that's the one right at the top there: Avis, Kryptonite, On Guard. They're a little pricier, but they're quality. And then down at the bottom, Master Lock does make good locks. They're cheaper, but they are still highly rated, and they'll do the job. What you're looking for, there's like technical names for the different types of locks that are, whether it's, and some are more pickable than others, and some are stronger, basically stronger, and they last longer. Since you're gonna have the lock for a while, you don't want it to start getting all sticky and maybe bend the key, and then the whole thing becomes a problem and you have to buy a new one. So what you're looking for is a nice round steel strong cylinder around the keyhole. The bigger and stronger looking that part of the lock is, and you want to test it out if it works smoothly, but that means you probably have a better lock than opposed to a very small lock cylinder. The next image is just a normal pin lock. It doesn't rotate, so it's called a pin lock, whereas the other one is a disc lock. And this one is going to have a lot smaller. The housing, the whole apparatus, the whole device is a lot smaller, and so it's going to be easier to break. And there are picking techniques that people use on these ones. So this is just a classic combo that a lot of people are buying nowadays. A pretty strong, but not too big. It has to fit around your bike in the way that you like to lock. And so if you got to practice with this U-lock, try it on different parts of the bike. Everybody comes up with their own solution on how to put it the way they like to put it on their bike. And then people get the cable to loop it through the wheels. Now, a very small tool, ratcheting cable cutter that can fit in your pocket, can cut that cable. So it's no guarantee at night or for a long period of time, but it'll keep someone from quick releasing your wheels off and running off with them in the moment. And then back to chain, you can buy chain at Home Depot. One thing I found to get cheaper chain is to buy a piece of tow chain. They sell like a short piece of chain as a tow kit, and that tends to be thicker, hardened chain that doesn't cost quite as much. Because if you really compare bike locks to the price of hardened, thick chain, it's almost equal. You're going to pay more for really good chain than you are going to pay for a bike lock. Plus, it's heavy. Okay, this is like, I tried to make this little chart. A lot of times bike locks are advertised in millimeters. And this just gives you an idea. Everything below 3/8 of an inch, which is pretty big. That's this large chain right here. This is a tow chain. This is a towing chain, 3/8 of an inch. Everything this chain and smaller can easily be cut with a large pair of bolt cutters in just a few seconds. And everything above 3/8, closer to 1/2 inch to 3/4, you're going to need a disc cutter. And so that's really the size you need to have any reliability against bolt cutters, which are silent, whereas the disc cutter makes a lot of noise. And so you have to evaluate your situation. The big, super strong Kryptonite locks are about 15 millimeters. This just shows you how it works. It's just a lever. It forces this hardened steel cutters through the lock. That's a small one. It can cut any small lock, but there's one that's about 5 or 6 feet that people use to cut the bigger locks. And then this is sort of the bane of the bicycler's existence. This is the led to the theft of many bikes, and it's a battery powered disc cutter, and it can cut through any lock. This one, the idea is that it has so much layers and it's so thick that it would just slow down the disc cutter. They'll still be able to cut through it, but maybe they spend 20 minutes on it. Someone's going to come out and stop them or call the police or something. That's a real lock. It's sort of a insider's tip. People say that handcuffs, and these are bike locks that are made to look like handcuffs, but that handcuffs actually make a good bike lock. They're made of hardened steel. The key is easy to use, and they're hard to twist or break in any way with a crowbar. This is a lock that emits a noxious gas when cut. So, people take it personally sometimes, and this is just like taking it to the next level, the war against a bike theft. And here's just a few jokes. Remember, bike locks are just a deterrent. You cannot, in the end, buy any product or device that will stop someone from stealing your bike. And so why not have fun with it? This is a real product, and it kind of adds some humor and maybe a little beauty to the cityscape. It's easily cut, but in the situation where you're just leaving your bike for a few minutes, it's probably fine.
And that's the thing I like is using if you have the ability to carry it, and with e-bikes you can more than one lock. So you use this one to keep the front wheel attached, and then you'd use a heavier lock to keep the frame attached, then maybe another one to wrap the whole bike up or something like that.
Yeah, I think generally use a heavy one on the frame, a light one on the wheels, because the wheel theft is going to be a crime of opportunity. Someone's looking for a wheel that's a nice wheel that they can quick release off and run away with right in the moment. And this is enough to stop that.
Speaking of wrapping your bike up.
Yeah, I actually didn't get a picture, but I saw this downtown, not this one, but one just like it at Ralph's a couple days ago. And someone had tied their bike with so many knots that it's difficult to take it, but you also get the impression that the person doesn't want you to take it. So I don't know. It's like this emotional appeal to the thief, which who knows? I don't know if that works or not. And then here's a joke for you guys. Don't forget to bring your B lock when you ride your bike. Not your D lock, but your B lock. So good luck out there choosing your locks. I know it's part of perfecting your kit, your whole bike setup. And so choosing the right lock that feels good, that you like to use, that doesn't scratch your bike a ton, that is giving you the level of security you want, isn't breaking your back while you're riding. And remember that any lock can be cut. So evaluate your situation and make your choices, and have a plan B, which is register your bike on Bike Index.
And I think a combination of locks is always going to be good. That U-lock is a good place to start. And I love your tip about even spend the money on a bike lock, specifically a U-lock, and then go down to Home Depot and get $20 worth of thick chain, and you can get a lot more for your money. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of options in chain and cable at the home stores. And so, but from my comparison of thick chain to the U-lock, it's worth it to have a D-lock, a quality D-lock. I think it's something that everybody who locks their bike in an urban, well, not just urban, but who locks their bike outside needs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And if I see you riding your bike and you've got the U-lock stuck in your belt loop, then you look like a pretty cool bike person.
Yeah. I mean, you can try the chain. If you like the chain, I have a chain. I ride with a chain and a U-lock combo. I have a Kryptonite chain that's covered in fabric and a U-lock. I use the two together. That's what I have. And so if anybody's watching this video, please put in the comments what bike lock you like to use and why. Please, we'd like everyone to share. Sure. And if you have any stories about bike locks, please go ahead and put them in the comments.
Okay, thanks everyone for being here. We're back next week at the same time. Next topic, we'll still be covering bike theft and learning a little bit something else and having conversations with new people. So check us out. Check us out on sdbikecoalition.org. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and I think TikTok, although I don't know if anyone uses that at the office, but we'll get on there one day.
Yeah, become a member. It's free, and you'll receive the e-news every month. And be kept up to date with events and any happenings.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
All right, goodbye, everyone.